Welcome to the Seth Joyner Show, the video cast. I got to make that distinction because, I got a TV show and a podcast. So I got to let you guys know what's going on. This is Tuesday, Talk to Him Tuesday, as a matter of fact. And the Seth Joyner Show, the podcast, is brought to you and presented to you by Bet Parks. I got a surprise for you guys tonight. The technology is just unbelievable. So I'm going to be doing a whiteboard session for you guys in the second 30 minutes of the show to kind of give you a little bit of a breakdown. I talked not only in post game this week, but I also talked on WIP and I talked to my TV show about why it is that the Eagles are surrendering so many yards in the passing game. I'm going to break that down for you during the whiteboard session, so you guys kind of get an idea of my theory and what I think and how I believe that the Philadelphia Eagles can actually get better defensively. But it is a Talk to Him Tuesday. You guys, I'm taking your comments all day. There'll be no guest today. It's just me and you. So start firing those questions. My producer's going to throw them up on the board. And, we're just going to be chatting it up all night. I'm not going to waste too much time, in this little dialogue, but I will talk a little bit about, the Philadelphia Eagles and my thoughts about why this game last week against the Washington Commanders was so tight. In classic form, the Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion, looked at the young secondary of the Washington Commanders and thought that, hey, we could probably get our passing game healed, or at least on the road to healing it against this young secondary. Now, mind you, the Eagles came into this game leading the National Football League in rushing. Back-to-back weeks, 40-plus carries, over 200 yards. The game started out very well from a play calling perspective because, they came out, they ran the ball, they were pretty balanced. They matched Washington's 75-yard drive with I believe, a 12 or 13 play drive themselves and tied the game up, boom, right away. And then after that, they went into pass mode. And in my opinion, it was pretty ugly. For you guys who don't know, they ran the ball a total of 9 times in the first half for 27 yards. It's 3 yards per carry. Now, they got the win. I saw one of the comments up there, a big W. And guess what? You're 100% correct. They did get the W. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we're here to talk about what it is that, can get this team to the point where they can play a dominant game. And, the other thing, too, is, I talked about it today. Let's be cognizant that other teams have great coaches and great players. I've talked about it in the past. And those guys get paid to make plays, and they get paid to get it done as well. So there are just times where, plays are not going to work out in the Philadelphia Eagles' favor just because they're getting better at trying to figure out what we're doing and trying to take away our best plays and our best players. That's just a fact. But at the end of the day, the Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0, and they're headed out to Los Angeles this weekend to face the Los Angeles Rams. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But also, let's get into a little bit of statistics before we jump into some of the questions. Jalen Hurts had his best day throwing the football this year. He was 25 for 37 for 319 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 112 rating. Pretty darn good day. No turnovers. A.J. Brown had another stellar day. 9 catches for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. Um, A.J. Brown for the second week in a row had 14 plus targets. I think he had 15 out of the 37 passes last week. Turn around, he had 14 out of the 37 passes this week against Washington. Um, there is just a whole lot of um, talent on this team. And AJ Brown is a bad boy, and trust me, he had the young kid Emmanuel Forbes Jr. over there chirping it up all day, and he took him to school. But I'd love to see a game where Dallas Goedert gets involved. I'd love to see a game where Olamide Zaccheaus gets more than 1 or 2 targets per game. He made some key catches for the Eagles in third down situations. I like to see the ball in DeAndre Swift's hands out of the backfield a little more often. And to wrap up, what really transpired offensively, I thought that touchdown at the end of the game where Jalen Hurts checked out of a running play and threw the touchdown pass with, a minute and 30 something seconds, and Washington had two timeouts left. I thought that was the most egregious play of the game, because you cannot, no matter who it is, give the opposing team another possession and another opportunity to tie the game up. They're in position on 2nd and 6 right there to run it the next 2 times, get a first down, force Washington to burn their last timeout, and then bring Jake Elliott on and let him kick a extremely manageable. Well, they're all manageable for him. He is just gold right now. But let Jake Elliott, kick a field goal that's not that stressful. And there's no time and no situation where Washington ever gets the ball back. I think in a lot of ways, that was the first time that Jalen Hurts has actually been in that situation. That's the first time that Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni have been in that situation as well. But the conversation that must go on in that headset, and of course, Nick Sirianni is not going to throw his quarterback, rightfully so, under the bus. He says in his press conference, "Hey, I'm never going to be mad at Jalen for scoring a touchdown." I get that, but in my opinion, we got to be smarter about that. And I think that situation was pretty much a learning experience for not only Jalen Hurts, but for Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni. Like I said, they'd never been in that situation before. The conversation should have been in Jalen Hurts' ear, okay, when he was getting that 2nd and 6 play. Hey, let's run the ball here. No checks, no matter what it is that you see, no matter what it is that you like. We're going to run the ball. We want to run the clock. We want to run the timeout and make sure that the Washington Commanders do not get another possession in this football game. Okay. They figured out a way to win it, and that's all great. Okay. As we transition over to, the defensive side of the ball, this was a game that I think everybody had a feeling that the Eagles, should have dominated in a massive way. You looked at the Buffalo Bills, who played them and beat them pretty handily the week before. They had 9 sacks, and they got 4 interceptions on Sam Howell. Sam Howell looked pretty much like a Pro Bowl quarterback against us. Washington wasn't very good against the run, but they ran it well enough and ran for 100 yards to keep the defense honest, and to kind of tamp down, at the end of the day, the pass rush. You just know that, you just knew that Eric Bieniemy was going to take his young quarterback, talk about what he did wrong the week before, and put him in a much better position to make good plays and make good decisions in this game coming up against the Eagles. And he did just that. They took a page out of Mac Jones's book. First game of the season against New England. They came out 3-step drop. They were getting that ball out. With the Eagles playing the cornerback so far off the ball, it was one of those situations where they just pretty much said, okay, we're going to take what you give us. And I'll diagram that up for you guys, a little later on so you can see why it was so successful. Another question that I can throw out to you guys for debate. Zach Cunningham has played outstanding. Nicholas Morrow had 3 of the 5 sacks that the Eagles had last week. 3 sacks in a game? Gosh, I played for 13 years and never had 3 in one game. just on fire. And a lot of that had to do with Sean deciding to bring some pressure. He was not going to sit back there after a while and just allow Sam Howell to just throw the ball. So they did get some pressure in between the front. I believe, there's 5 guys on the front. I believe it was Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, um, Hassan Reddick, and Jalen Carter. Between the 5 of them, they had 32 pressures, but they only came away with 5 sacks. So there's something amiss there when you talk about being able to generate that kind of pressure and not have the higher volume of sacks, even though, especially from the defensive front, because for the most part, that's where the majority of the pressure was coming from, was from the defensive front, with those guys having 32 total. So let's kind of talk about that, a little later. Then I'm going to cap everything off, for this segment before we jump into some questions. And let's talk about the special teams. They have gone from an average special teams group, to looking pretty special. It all begins with Jake. When Jake can come out here and kick field goals, 3-4 field goals every week. He had one from 41, 47, 36, and of course, the game winner in overtime from 54. Britton Colby is averaging 12.7 yards per punt return. That's, right there with some of the tops in the National Football League. And here's a guy a couple of weeks ago, people questioned why was he even on the team. I think he's done a fantastic job. And the areas of the special teams that has worried me the most was the coverage, the kickoff coverage, and when Jake doesn't kick it out of the end zone, the kickoff coverage, and then the punt coverage. It's been so much better the last few weeks. And dare I say, they've gone from average to special. All right. So that's kind of my recap of the game. I know some of you guys think sometimes that I'm overly critical, that I'm criticizing things, but hey, we're just talking about it. This is Talk to 'em Tuesday. I'm telling you what I think and what's on my mind. At the end of the day, I'm extremely happy that the Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0 and heading out, to LA to play the Rams. It's very hard to play a perfect game in the National Football League. And I think that if you can go out and you can play, and your grade is somewhere around 75% success rate, position to position to position, then you're going to play, a pretty darn good game. Um, that's what we do in Philly. We talk about everything, we critique everything, we break down everything. But at the end of the day, we got a hell of a lot better than that team up in New York. I don't know how many of you guys watched that game last night. But I get the sense that Brian Daboll is just about done with that franchise quarterback that they just signed to a large deal, almost $45 million a year. Granted, he doesn't have any protection. He doesn't have many weapons. But man, um, when you watch that kind of interaction between a head coach or an offensive coordinator and their quarterback, for the most part, those guys are always on the same page. They're always talking. They're always communicating. But when Danny comes off the field and the coach is talking to him and he continues to walk like he doesn't hear him, that sends the message to me that, hey, I'm getting sick and tired of hearing this, and you ain't giving me no protection. And the coach is like, my goodness, I'm trying to help you out here, and I'm trying to steer you in the right direction. I'm trying to show you what you missed, where your read should have went. That looked to me like that relationship is pretty darn fractured. So by no means am I being critical of the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm just analyzing what I saw, and I'm bringing, kicking it to you guys real like I always do, and I pray and hope that the Eagles go undefeated, go 20-0 and win the Super Bowl. But hope doesn't mean anything if I don't sit here and break all this down and analyze the game for you guys. Hey, listen, this is the Seth Joyner Show presented to you by Bet Parks. For you guys who are not on YouTube, I would love for you to hit that like button, go over to YouTube and hit that like button, but also go on there and subscribe if you would, and share. All right, let's jump into our question portion for the first half of the show. It's Talk to 'em Tuesday, and my first question is from Miss Chris. Miss Chris wants to know, talk about Bradbury moving back to the outside. I don't quite understand the difference as far as what the effect it has on the field. Well, Chris, listen, that slot corner position is one of the most important positions on the field. It's a different ball game when you're on the outside because you're playing from the outside in. You can funnel guys to the inside of the field where the help is. When you're playing on the slot, most of the time that slot corner is playing on a wide receiver that's off the ball. And when he's off the ball, that means you can't crowd him. You can't get close enough to direct him and make him go where you want to go. So you got to be fleet of foot. You got to be quick, and you got to be really good, at reading routes and understanding what's going on because the wide receiver has a two-way go on you. If you're on the outside, you always have the 12th man on this side and the 12th man on the other side. That is the sideline. What James actually moving back outside, then that puts the onus and the pressure on some of these young guys that has to step inside. And always, that's a matter of communication. The problem is, communication. When the Eagles have trouble in the middle of the field, it's always a communication thing. It's not that they can't get it done. It's not that they can't do it, but you got to communicate. You got to talk about what might happen before it happens, because when it happens, it's too late. It's almost like the theory of, make sure you be ready so that you don't have to get ready. Because in football, when you got to get ready, it's normally too late. The offense knows the play, it knows the snap counts, they know where they're going. As a defense, you're reading and reacting to everything that you see, and you're trying to anticipate what the defense is doing based upon field position, based upon down and distance, based upon formation, and your recollection of what they like to do in certain situations on certain down and distances. So without that communication that you're going to get with James Bradbury inside, it leaves a lot to be desired, okay? That's the difference. All right, let's jump over to Lawrence. Lawrence Smith wants to know, do you think the side is doing enough on defense? I don't think he is putting the players in the best position. Your thought? Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. Listen, I think that Sean Desai is doing about as good a job as he can do, because when you consider that you lost your number one slot corner, then you turn around and you lost your number two slot corner, Zach McPherson. Both of them are done for the season. Okay. Now you got a bunch of young guys trying to figure out who fits and who doesn't fit. You got Josh Jobe that you had to start at cornerback, a couple of games, a couple of times. Bradbury comes back and then you kick him down inside. There's a whole lot going on that he's trying to figure out. When the front four is getting consistent pressure like they have through the first three games, then he doesn't have to blitz, but he blitzed quite a bit. I mean, that's pretty evident when your linebacker, has more sacks than your defensive tackles and your defensive ends and your rush guys, in a particular game. He sent the linebackers a lot. He sent them both. He sent one of them at a time. He did a lot of pressure. But you're going to see in my breakdown, in another 10, 15 minutes, why it wasn't as successful as it probably could have been. And I think that, in that stead, once you see that, you're going to understand how it is that he can help this defense be better than what it is, particularly, in the passing game. The Eagles are averaging right around 70 yards per game, against the run. That's a massive improvement. They gave up on average 121 yards last year, but they were one of the best teams against the pass last year, primarily because they created 70 sacks last year. So they were getting to the quarterback, and getting to the quarterback and creating sacks, is a byproduct of two things. Coverage. That means that the guys on the outside are covering long enough for the rush to get there. And it also means that the guys are getting there fast enough so that the coverage can hold up on the outside. So there's a little bit of a disconnect right now. And that's what the whiteboard session is going to be about tonight, is how we fix that, because then that fixes our third down percentage. It fixes, our turnover ratio. It fixes the amount of sacks that our guys up front begin to get, and it makes our guys on the back end, we are able to lower that number, from 300 plus yards per game, to a more respectable number where they should be. All right. So Warren Green wants to know, Philly versus San Francisco, winner goes to the Super Bowl. I believe so. I think that they're the top two teams in the National Football Conference right now. They're both holding serve. They're both 4-0. They're the only two teams left in the National Football League that are undefeated. I don't believe that either team has really played a juggernaut, but they're going to meet each other down the road. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to have to play them at home. They're going to have to play Miami. They're going to have to play Kansas City. They're going to have to play Dallas. They're going to have some, that little murderer's row after the bye week. But hopefully they'll be hitting on all cylinders and ready to beat those teams, because those are the types of teams, and Buffalo, I should say, I left them out. They're going to have to beat those teams if they're going to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. So when they get to a point where they're dominating, and beating those types of teams, I think that the entire city and the media and the fans and everybody else will feel a lot better about, where this team is. But that's down the road. All right. So let's take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to jump into this whiteboard. I'm going to explain to you how the defense can, fix some of the things that's going on in the passing game. And then we'll jump right back into some more of your questions. All right.
When you open the BetParks app, you're in the zone. Winning is always a rush, but the money is in the moments. It's the confidence and underdogs covering, the tension before a clutch turnover, and the pride of a parlay paying off. It's another chance to win big with all-day action. Plus, win your first $10 bet and get $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun, you love to win. You bet. BetParks.
If you understand that success is built on trusted relationships and dependable performance, Mid-Penn Bank is the right bank for you. We're on a mission to prove that the right bankers can make a big difference. We work harder, we get things done, and we're in your corner. With financial centers strategically located throughout the greater Philadelphia region and new locations in central New Jersey, we're ready to bring you the best in commercial and personal banking. Call or visit us today to connect with a professional Mid-Penn banker. Member FDIC. Go Eagles!
Welcome to Bridgeview Partners, where IT and business innovation merge. We're not just another tech company. We're your strategic partner in navigating the ever-evolving digital landscape. Our team of experts tailors cutting-edge solutions to fit your unique needs, and ensuring your success is our top priority. Elevate your business with Bridgeview Partners. Discover the power of partnership and tech innovation today. Contact us now to experience the difference. Bridgeview Partners, where innovation meets excellence.
Welcome back to the Seth Joyner Show, presented to you by BetParks. Okay, so now what I'd like for you guys to do is jump in the comments, as I do this next segment, and I want you guys to give me your feedback, what you think, what you feel about this, because I can incorporate this into each show from now on moving forward and pick a specific thing and kind of break it down and give you an idea of what my thoughts are, okay? So here's the thought. So the Philadelphia Eagles ran an awful lot of blitzes last week, okay? So here we're looking at, the Washington football team's offense, okay? You got your tight end here, your quarterback, and your running back, okay? So our defensive end, or our rush end, tackle, end, okay? You got your slot corner, your cornerback, okay, your safety, your linebacker here, a linebacker here, and another safety here. And this is critical, the cornerback here. This is the thing to me that makes no sense, okay? So Sean Desai ran a lot of blitzes where he walked the linebackers up in the A gaps, okay? The defensive ends and tackles are there. So sometimes they attacked the A gap and he came over and picked up the back if the back went out. And this safety rolled down and had that tight end in coverage with man-to-man across the board, okay? Man-to-man across the board. But the problem is this cornerback over here is 7 to 10 yards off the ball, okay? So once these linebackers start moving, the quarterback knows what the heck's going on. He's making an adjustment. But when you play 7 to 10 yards off the ball, this guy's got to go to the hole, because everybody else is in man coverage, a single high. This wide receiver has the option to run 3 different routes. The Philadelphia Eagles don't sight adjust. but most teams do. What sight adjustment is that once the quarterback reads that there's blitz coming, this wide receiver can run a quick slant, he can run a stop route, or he can run a speed out. Either one of those. And that ball's coming out right now. But when you're 10 yards off the ball, there's no way in the world that you can defense this. Okay. And we see the Eagles cornerbacks line up in this posture more times than not. Okay. On both sides. You know, there's times where you should play off. Okay. If it's third and 15 plus, yeah, you can play off because what you want to do, you want to throw the short pass. You want to come up and make the tackle. But 3rd and 9 to 3rd and medium, 3rd and 3, you got to get up. You got to get up in coverage and you got to challenge this guy at the line of scrimmage. So this is why Sam Howell had such a big day on Sunday, because every time he read blitz coverage, they went quick. Terry McLaurin on a slant, Terry McLaurin on a stop right, Terry McLaurin on an out. Okay. So now, how did they fix this? Okay. I'm going to go back over here. So this corner, in my opinion, needs to get up. Okay. Sometimes. Now, you don't have to play from that posture all the time, but get up and inside. If I'm inside, I force the wide receiver's release here, and now I get on his inside hip. You're going to force that quarterback to throw the perfect ball over the top. Now that gives this safety time to get over top. Okay. But when you play passively like that, you make the cornerback passive, in my opinion. Okay. You also, in my opinion, you need to get up and get back sometimes. Okay. They line up in a designated depth, and the really, really good quarterbacks, they're going to see that and they're going to take advantage of it all day long. Okay. So what I'm used to seeing and what I know about playing cornerback, you get up, you get back. You line up inside, you line up outside. You're moving all over the place because what you want to do is you want to confuse this quarterback as to what it is that you're actually doing, what kind of technique you're actually playing. Because you can play man from outside and force this guy down inside, get on the hip, have the safety drive on it. You can do all of those things. Okay. I'm not saying that, they're restricted to playing it a certain way, but I want to play. Hey, he can play off. Okay. The quarterback gets in his cadence, he could jump up, but it's as long as you're moving around, you create doubt in the minds of the quarterback. And the whole reason why you're bringing these extra guys is to speed up the clock of the quarterback, specifically rookies and young quarterbacks, okay? Because they haven't seen all it is for them to see, okay? So you're trying to speed up their clock to make them make bad decisions, okay? If it's 3rd down, throw it incomplete, throw an interception. If it's 3rd down, hold on to the ball, allow the rush to get to you, cause a fumble, okay? These are the things that improves 3rd down efficiency, opens the door to sacks, and opens the door to added turnovers, be it interceptions or strip sacks, okay? All of those things, all right? So that's the end of the whiteboard session. I could go on. I could give you some other stuff, but let's end it right there. You guys have got the questions. Let's get back to the questions. Like I said, let me know what you think about the whiteboard session. We can do it each and every week. I can talk about the Eagles' run plays. I can talk about defensively, what Jordan Davis and why Jalen Carter is playing so well, and how it is and why it is that Fletcher Cox. My goodness, Fletcher might have found the fountain of youth here or something, because he's playing at a whole nother level. I thought that last Sunday, even though it didn't show up in the stat box, I thought it was one of his most dominant games in years. And I think that it might be the baby Rhino effect that's causing all of these defensive tackles to raise their level of play and play at a whole nother level. Okay. All right, let's jump back into the questions. So Sean wants to know, do we need to address the linebacker, like get a pass covering linebacker? Hey, listen, I don't think that our linebackers have played bad at all. I'm going to post this question to you guys, and I'm not sure whether I already did or, whether I kind of insinuated it. So you got Nicholas Morrow that's playing out of his mind, okay? Got 4 sacks on the year, I believe. Then you got Zach Cunningham, that's just all over the place making tackles. He's led the team in tackles the last 2 weeks. Okay. Question for you guys. When Nakobe Dean comes back, do you insert him back into the starting lineup? Or if these guys are continuing to be productive over the next 2 weeks, do you leave it alone and just have Nakobe Dean play spot duty? Okay. I mean, with quarterbacks, when a quarterback gets injured and his backup goes in and he plays at a high level, a lot of times teams are reluctant to make the change back because they're having success. You don't want to mess with something that's going good. Okay, so you have quarterback controversies. My question to you guys, and load them up, in the comment section. Could the Eagles potentially in 2 weeks have a linebacker controversy? Because these two young guys are playing some very, very good football. A lot has to do with what's going on up front. Okay, but I believe that Nakobe Dean is the guy of the future as far as this team, thought. And let's just be honest, Zach Cunningham, Nicholas Morrow, rather, he didn't even make the 53-man roster. And right now, I'm of the opinion he might be the best linebacker that they have. I'm just going off of production, okay? Because Nakobe's been hurt, so he hadn't had the chance to produce, okay? But these guys are playing at an extremely high level right along with this defensive line. And the question is, can or do you make the move back to Nakobe Dean? I see some of the comments. Some of you guys said leave him on the bench. Some of you guys saying, hey, he's a playmaker. How many more plays can you ask these guys, to make that decision? And I'm not advocating one way or the other. I love Nakobe Dean. I hope he gets healthy and can stay healthy and be a major contributor for years to come here. But I'm talking about production. Right now, these linebackers are producing at an extremely high level. Zach Cunningham led the team last week with 13 tackles. Nicholas Morrow followed him up with 11 tackles, 3 for a loss, 3 sacks, and a caused fumble. I mean, how do you take that kind of production off the field? I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm leaving the question up to you guys. I want you guys to tell me what you think. All right. Next question. Rashawn wants to know, I can understand that giving Hurts his big contract, but why keep the handcuffs on him? Let him scramble out of the pocket like last year. What are your thoughts? He's being very protective, okay? And I think this is a coaching staff deal because in the time that Hurts has been here over the last 3 years, I've never seen him slide so much when there was extra yardage there to be had. I think the realization, late last season when they needed that one more game and they had to roll him out there in order to get the division and get home field advantage, they realized that they cannot win without him present on the field. So I think he's been instructed to protect himself at all times. Now, you saw the big 23-yard run in the fourth quarter, but the game was on the line. The game was at stake. So he threw all caution to the wind and looked like the Hurts of old. But for the most part, he is just basically, in protective mode. I mean, listen, I don't know how many sacks he has. Maybe one of you guys can pull it up and let me know. But I would venture to say that half of the sacks that he has are sacks that he's taken on his own. They're not sacks that he's, being tackled in the pocket. There's at least 2 or 3 of them that I see where he scrambles, he gets to the line of scrimmage, and instead of diving over the line of scrimmage or jumping over the line of scrimmage, he just lays down behind the line of scrimmage. I'm like, dude, that's a sack, right? Or he's running out of bounds and he's outside of the pocket, and instead of just flipping the ball out of bounds and taking the incomplete pass, he runs out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage. That's a sack. And I would guarantee you that half of the sacks that he has have come either by him sliding before the line of scrimmage on a pass play or running out of bounds, not wanting to take a hit, instead of just throwing the ball away. He'd rather take a sack than to take an incompletion. And that makes no sense to me. Okay, so they got him in protective mode, and there's not a single thing that you or I or anybody else is going to do to change that until he feels like the game is hanging in the balance, and then he's going to revert to, the Jalen Hurts that we've seen the last 2 years, okay? Adam wants to know, will the Eagles sign, trade for a slot corner or safety, and who? Listen, I don't know the answer to that. I'm trying to. I saw that they signed a veteran, Bradley Roby, to the practice squad today. I'm not sure. I have to get some more information on Bradley Roby. I don't know whether he's a slot corner, a corner, or what position he plays, but it's obvious that they see that there's a need there. The problem with trying to get one from another team is what it's going to cost, and most coaches know good and darn well that that the Eagles need one. So they're probably going to be held at hostage to get a quality one. And most teams that have quality cornerbacks, especially in the slot, one or two of them, they're not willing to give them up because it's hard to develop them. B, there's not very many of them. And C, why would you help out a team that just went to the Super Bowl last year? They're not going to get any sympathy from anybody. It's going to cost them quite a bit to be able to get a guy that really means something. If there's somebody out there on the streets, if he was worth his salt, he'd be in somebody's camp right now. All right. So John wants to know, are the linebackers better than last year's linebackers? Well, John, I'll ask you this question. How many sacks, to your recollection do you remember last year's linebackers, having? How many forced fumbles, to your recollection do you remember last year's linebackers having, creating, or recovering? Listen, I love TJ Edwards, but TJ Edwards was a tackling machine. He was making a lot of tackles, but he wasn't making a lot of plays that helped determine the outcome of the game. You got some guys now that are doing that. But I would also say that I believe, in my opinion, and a lot of people may think I'm crazy, I think the defensive line is better than it was last year. Okay. I think that Jalen Carter is an upgrade. I think, a Jordan Davis in his second year, realizing that his go time is playing the best football that he's played in the 2 years that he's been here, or the year and a half that he's been there. I believe that Fletcher Cox on a 1-year deal is trying to show not only the Philadelphia Eagles, but the rest of the league, if need be, that, hey, I got a lot left in the tank and I can still get it done. Milton Williams is playing. Tui Pelotu is playing. All of these guys are playing at a high level because I think that Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are pushing the envelope and forcing these guys to play at a higher level. And I know for a fact, because I know from experience, that when a linebacker is playing well, he's playing well as a result of what's happening in front of him. You show me a great linebacker that didn't have a great defensive line in front of him, a great front in front of him. I've yet to see it, because every last one of them that I can remember had that. They were either protecting them or they were giving them run-throughs, eating up blocks where they could just go to the ball and just knock people out. You have to have a solid defensive front in order for linebackers to play well. TJ Edwards had it last year. I just believe the defensive line is better this year than it was last year. And these guys are still learning, they're still growing. They're only going to get better. All right. So Junior Moon wants to know what happened to the defense on the last drive. Where was the pass rush? What happened on the 3rd and 17? Listen, I tell you guys all the time, it's not like Nick Sirianni went out and hired a Wink Martindale, blitzaholic, blitzes on 46% of his plays defensively. He didn't entertain a interview from Rex Ryan because he's a high pressure guy. I'll give you guys something else, and this is not even, you guys know my disdain for him. But look at what Jonathan Gannon is doing in Arizona. Jonathan Gannon is down there blitzing like he's lost his darn mind. He didn't blitz nearly that much last year. And I get it. A lot of people think that, because the defensive line was getting there. But he is blitzing like he has no sense down in Arizona. Okay? And even though Sean Desai is a little more aggressive, think about how he's playing. I just showed you guys why Sam Howell was able to defeat the blitz on a lot of plays last week, because the cornerbacks are playing far off. And I'm pretty sure Nick Sirianni has something to do with the decision to be aggressive or be non-aggressive. Okay, and this is my theory and why. Jonathan Gannon wasn't aggressive at all last year. Okay, Sean Desai comes in here. He's aggressive from the standpoint of sending an extra linebacker or two linebackers from time to time, but he's always in a position where he's got a single high safety, and the cornerbacks are always playing, off the ball, not to give up the big play, because Sirianni's theory is we want to create explosive plays, but we want to deny our opponents explosive plays. So then what you wind up getting is your cornerbacks play passive while you're blitzing. It's an oxymoron. If you're going to be aggressive with your linebackers in your defensive front, then that means you got to be aggressive on the outside with your corners and how they play and how they posture. Okay. So a lot of this, in my opinion, has to do with Nick Sirianni. He probably looks at Sean Desai, hey, you can bring pressure if you want to, but you better not let him beat you over the top, because you know my philosophy about explosive plays. There you go. Therein is why you're seeing what you're seeing. Now, that's my theory. I could be as wrong as two left shoes, but I've been around the game a long time, man. A long time. And I'm watching this thing, and I'm watching and I'm trying to figure out, okay, Sean, you're like dialing up the blitzes. I would imagine that if you go back and you do the numbers right now, when Jonathan Gannon was here, I think the Eagles blitzed somewhere between 12 and 14%. I guarantee you Sean Desai has got to be blitzing upwards of 30% right now. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but he's doing it from a passive posture as far as his secondary is concerned. You see guys coming, but the cornerbacks and the slot guy and the safety who's in coverage, they're 7, 8, 10 yards off the ball, So the good quarterbacks are going to see the linebackers creep up, but they're going to see the linebackers sugaring in the A gaps or the B gaps. They're going to check to a side adjustment, and 10 yards off the ball, they're going to complete that all day long, unless we get our hands up and knock the pass down. All right. So the village wants to know, why won't our coaches bring the corners up like you're saying? I think I just explained that. They're so afraid of getting beat deep that they're not going to risk putting those cornerbacks in a position where they do get beat deep. There's times to be aggressive. There's time to be passive, and there's different circumstances for different situations. If you're playing against, an experienced quarterback like Matthew Stafford, listen, he can make all the throws. He's got this new kid, this Nuka kid who's leading the National Football League in receptions with 39 through four games. There's this thought that, Cooper Kupp might come off a pup. So I would imagine that you're going to see even more passivity, from a blitz situation because they're just afraid of getting beat on the deep ball. But you can take away the sight adjustments and force fade routes, force these young quarterbacks in particular to throw the perfect ball. If I'm up and I'm in jam position on the inside and I'm forcing the outside release, the 12th man is the sideline. Okay, then I force the quarterback, because he's only going to have one read. It's not like he's going to look one way and come back and go the other way, even if they pick it up. Because when you bring both linebackers, I should explain that, in the whiteboard session, you're one-on-one across the board. There's nobody that's being double teamed. So that means that your defensive tackles got to get it. That means that your rush guys, they got to get it, because those linebackers are coming in eating up the safety and eating up the back if the back stays in. Okay? So you got one-on-ones across the board. But the quarterback, you're speeding up his clock, and he knows I got one read. So if you jam that wide receiver inside out, send him to the 12th man on the sideline, he's got to make the perfect throw every single time, fade route, every single time. Okay? And if you're in phase and you're in right position and your technique is good, really the only play that can beat you is the stop fade, the back shoulder fade. That's okay. Turn, push him out of bounds. We'll live to play another day. But at least you're speeding up the clock of the quarterback, and you're making him think, and you're making him react faster. Now, this week, maybe not as much, because you're playing against, a wily old veteran, 35 years old, seen it all, played it all, done it all. All right? Sean wants to know, do we need to address the linebacker like getting – I think we already had that one. It's all good. Dan wants to know, what do the DBs play? Why do they play so far off the ball? Doesn't that negate the pass rush by giving up the easy quarterback? Yeah, same thing. in order for the guys up front to get after it, that means that the guys on the back end are going to have to get after it. And I tell you, this is my opinion. I think that when you force cornerbacks, especially a guy like Darius Slay, to play in a more passive posture, I think it makes him passive all the way across the board. We've always known him as a shutdown corner. Shutdown corners don't play 10 yards off the ball. Shutdown corners get up on people, jam them at the line of scrimmage, run with them, and get in that hip pocket and make plays. Really hard for him to make plays being that far off the ball, because then all he becomes is a tackler, because that ball's coming out hot and fast right now. Now he's got to make sure that he's got the right angle, that he's, funneling the receiver to the right place where he can get some help just in case, he misses the tackle. I think that posturing makes them passive in their mindset, and makes them, defensive, if you will, against, the deep ball. And I played for Buddy Ryan. Our mentality was aggressive, because he called plays from an aggressive standpoint. So you had no other choice but to be aggressive in how you played the game. But when you ask a guy to play 10 yards off the ball and you're blitzing, and you know that ball is going to come out quick, fast, in a hurry, you're putting him in a position where he knows that if he misses a tackle, that there's only one guy left. That's that guy in the hole. Okay, and there's so much space between him and that guy in the hole that it's likely that guy in the hole is going to miss that tackle too. So get him up and let him take his shot at jamming at the wide receiver, and let him play more aggressive. And in my opinion, I think he'll make more plays if you put him in a more aggressive posture. Both he and James Bradbury, they're both cut out of the same mold. James might not be as fast as Darius, but I think that they are both more aggressive type players that sometimes get put in passive positions that make them play the game from a passive standpoint and a passive mindset. All right. Brennan wants to know, hey, Seth, do you think the signing of Bradley Roby to the slot? Listen, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure. I don't know enough about, Bradley to know whether, he's a pure slot guy or whether he's a corner that can play, in the slot, outside on the corner, or maybe even, in some safety situations in the deep hole. I just don't know. I guess we'll find out, pretty soon. Hard for me to believe if they just signed him today. Well, maybe not. Full week of practice. He's a veteran. Maybe they get him in and give him the crash course on the defense, and you can get him in certain spots, certain situations. But same thing. We got a new guy. You run into one of those situations where the communication lacks. You got a bunch of young guys around him, sometimes that aren't communicating as it is, and then you throw a guy in that's trying to figure it out that may not communicate until he knows full well what he's communicating. Don't know, but in time we'll see. We'll figure it out. All right. The Village wants to know again: do the Cowboys and the 49ers play their corners up? I think that they in certain situations, absolutely. Dallas is a high pressure team, and the crazy thing is, Dan Quinn was not all that way. You got to remember where Dan Quinn came from. Dan Quinn used to be the defensive coordinator for the Legion of Boom when they were like at their height. They were pretty much a cover 2 team, cover 3 team, and they blitzed very little. They dropped Cam. What is Cam's last name? The big safety, number 31, that hurt his neck and had to retire. They dropped him down in the box. He was a run stopper. They play, cover 3 behind most of what they were doing, a little bit of cover 2, but they very rarely, if ever, blitz. Since he's been in Dallas, he got fired from Atlanta as the head coach. And since he's been in Dallas, he's turned that defense around, primarily by having 2 guys in Lawrence and Parsons that can flat out rush, but they run a lot of pressures. They run blitzes, pass blitzes. They run it all. And it's just one of those situations where, yes, they do play their corners up because they realize that ball has to come out right now, even if the quarterback is intelligent enough to look. Cam Chancellor, there you go. Thank you, Arthur. Even if they are in a situation where the quarterback reads the blitz, the ball's got to come out quick, and it's got to be the perfect throw, or it's an incompletion, an interception, or a sack, or a turnover. All right. One more question before we go to break. Lloyd wants to know what do offsides call. What do you offsides call for the push tush? I'm assuming he's asking about the offsides called on Landon Dickerson last week. Listen, Washington alerted the officials that Landon was kind of cheating a little bit, and Landon was unaware of it. You know, the head's can't be even with the center. The head's got to be behind the shoulder pads, and he was just slightly offsides. Hey, it happens. It happens. It's a learning experience. It's better for it to happen now than for it to happen later on in the season in a game where it's really, really critical. And in a situation where you really got to have a first down, you got 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, and you get, a 5-yard offsides call on the offense. You very rarely see that. But I think someone was saying that, that was a point of emphasis for the referees this year, is to make sure that they watch and make sure that the offensive linemen are on side, particularly with the brotherly shove, and they're trying to figure out ways to make the Eagles stop doing it. All right, one more break, and then we'll take it home.
Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain. At Mandrecchia Law, we win big personal injury cases, but we always tell our clients up front that those cases almost always hinge on how much insurance coverage people or companies have. At Mandrecchia Law, we don't sell insurance, but we're experts at helping our clients make sure they have the right insurance to protect their businesses and families. Do you have the right insurance? Most people don't. For a consultation, visit mmattorneys.com or call 610-584-0700. Mandrecchia Law, aggressive attorneys who get the job done.
This is Seth Joyner, top analyst for the Birds. I've also analyzed the best auto dealerships, and I drive a Davis Honda.
Fall into savings at Davis Honda. Over 300 cars available. And right now, get rates as low as 0.9% at Davis Honda in Burlington. Plus, you'll get 2 years of free oil changes on every new and used Davis Honda vehicle. See why Davis Honda continues to win outstanding awards for sales and service, including the highest award from Honda, the President's Award. Get to Davis Honda in Burlington.
Fall into savings at Davis Honda. JP Mascaro & Sons is a family-owned, locally operated solid waste service company in business for over 60 years. You've seen the red trucks with the blue elephant that symbolizes strength and reliability. Mascaro is different than other national brands. Like the Birds, Philadelphia is home. They'll take care of all your waste removal needs. They have it all: an experienced workforce, state-of-the-art equipment, a cutting-edge recycling center, and their own disposal facilities. Call 888-MASCARO or visit jpmascaro.com. Welcome back. This is the Seth Joyner Show, brought to you by Bet Parks. As we wrap things up in the home stretch of this Talk to 'em Tuesday, your Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0, headed out to Los Angeles to face the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday afternoon. All right, let's jump back to our questions. So I think it's Ed down there. Yeah. Ed wants to know, why don't they play Carter and Davis at the same time? Ed, I'm going to be honest with you. I've wondered this too. I would love to see the two of them in the game together to see how they play off of each other. They played together, sparingly in college. So I would love to see the competition that brews on the field with those two guys together. I think it's just a rotational thing. I mean, you've got, what is it? Jalen, Jordan, Fletcher, Milton, and Marlon, all five of those guys. And it's just a rotational thing where the coaches have, got guys coming in and guys going out, and it just never works out where the two of them are on the field at the same time. The other thing too is, I think I've seen them on the field together in their 5-man front. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of weird, because I think we saw more 5-man front in the second half of this football game last week than we had seen throughout the whole season. The Eagles have done a very good job of stopping the run in the 4-man front, something that they could not do last year. But the Washington Commanders did a pretty good job of running the ball early last week. So then you begin to see the Eagles get in their 5-man front a lot more. You saw Nolan Smith line up at one rush spot, and then Hassan Reddick lineup at the other, and then they rush all five. They've been looking for that, ever since, they made that draft pick. But I think it's just a rotational thing. And over time, the better shape that, these young guys can get in, because you got to realize, I mean, they got 4 games already for Jalen Carter. He is like 2/3, through his, or a third through his normal college season. So they're probably trying to monitor how many plays and how much playing time they actually give the young guys, and make sure they keep them healthy and keep them ready for the end of the year when it really matters. Okay, next question. E Cosmos wants to know, why can't the Eagles use Nolan Smith like Nicholas Morrow? Because I think they've practiced him in practice in a certain mode. I think there are certain things, I've heard that they played him off the ball in certain situations. I think that he can do it, but I don't think Nolan is really a pure off the ball linebacker. I think that there are some things that they can do, that they can morph some defenses, from their 5-man to their 4-man front, where you bump him back behind the line and go from a 5-1 look or a 5-2 look to a 5-2-5, a 4-2-4-3 look with him off the ball. I think you can bump him off the line and then rush him inside and loop the defensive end outside. There's a whole lot of different things that you can do. But I think that those are some things that they're probably holding on to for later on in the year, when they're going to see it, when they're going to need something that other teams haven't seen. And I think for the most part, Nolan's probably been a little injured, so his snap count hasn't been that high. And now that, he's probably getting a little better, starting to feel a little better, we might see him do some things, that we hadn't previously seen him do. But we'll keep an eye on it. And, I'm pretty sure you guys will see it and you'll bring it to my attention, and we'll chop it up and talk about it right here on another Talk to Him Tuesday. All right. Next question. All right. Arthur wants to know, do you think the Eagles coaching staff is saving a lot of schemes for the toughest stretch of the game after the bye? Say holding back a bit. You took the words right out of my mouth. You put the question up, from your mouth to my ears. But hey, I don't think that, I don't think it's possible. It's not smart. It's not prudent to show teams everything that you have in your arsenal. You always want to hold some things back. You want to hold some things back offensively. You want to hold some things back defensively. I don't know if you guys saw last week, but there was a time where, and last week on the offensive side of the ball, you had both DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell in the game at the same time. I've been looking for that ever since, I was looking for that all the last year, with Kenneth Gainwell and Miles Sanders in the game at the same time. You got run threats, pass threats. There's a whole lot of different stuff that you can do. So to answer your question, yes, I do believe that there are certain things that they're holding back, that they don't want to show the rest of the league until they have to show it, or some extra ammo in the chamber that down the road they can spring on the team at the most precise time and use it the way that they need to use it. All right. So the Village wants to know, which D lineman got the best sack celebration. I like Reddick's Gladiator, thumbs down. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't even know that's what that was. I don't really pay attention to stuff like that. I'm a lot of times I'm looking for the replay so I can see how he won. So much so than I am looking at the celebrations. I like Fletcher's celebration, where he lays on the ground and kind of points at everybody in the end zone. It's all fun and games. It's all good, man. And listen, these guys work hard. You got to have fun while you're playing the game, and that's a part of it. All right. So Eddie wants to know again, would you keep Morrow in or start Dean? See, now you trying to start a controversy, man. I just threw it out there for you guys, to chime in on what you thought. Now you trying to ask me what I think. I think that the guys that are starting should continue to play, and you should slowly but surely work Nakobe Dean in. And when he gets to a point where he has, proven that he can produce at a high level like these guys have. Now, listen, they could go out to LA and both have bad games, and then come back against the Jets and both have bad games. That's just going to open the door for Nakobe to step right back in without any controversy, any thought about whether he should be in or not. But my point is, if they continue to play at a high level, there's no reason in the world why those guys shouldn't remain doing what they're doing until there's a need. And I get a lot of coaches, their mentality is a guy should not lose his starting job because of injury. And if that's the way they choose to do it, I'm fine with that too. I just threw it out there for conversation, for you guys to kick it around and find out, what you thought. And I think more people than not believe that when he comes back, that he's just going to step right back in. Hey, if they choose to do that, I'm fine with that too. Let's just see how it all continues to work out. Last question of the night before we wrap it all up. GT says, Seth, do you miss being with Barkan and Ray Diddy? Are you kidding me, man? Absolutely. Love Ray Didinger. I don't know if you guys saw the show, the Seth Joyner show on TV. By the way, that runs on Wednesdays on PHL 17 if you guys want to catch it. It also runs on NBC Sports Philadelphia on Thursday nights, 11 p.m. on both channels on Wednesday and Thursday nights. You can also catch it here. I know a lot of you guys didn't like the show being the podcast last year. Hence, that's why I'm back, sharing it, kicking it, interacting with you guys this year. But that show is also uploaded to the YouTube page. So you can not only see that before you look at this one, or that's not right. You can't see it before. This is Tuesday. Those shows won't kick in until tomorrow. But if you miss them, you can always go to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe and you can go there to see those shows as well. But yes, I miss being with Ray. I have a world of respect for him. One of the most knowledgeable football people I've ever been around. And, Michael Barkan is just, hey, he is, the godfather of, running TV, being the host on TV in Philly. And listen, I miss my boy Barrett Brooks too, man. He looking good, looking slim and trim, ready for war. I'm happy for him and happy for all those guys. Happy for Ray retiring and happy that those guys over at NBC are doing what they're doing and bringing you good content every week, before and after the Eagles game. All right. Hey, listen, that's the show for this week. We're going to wrap it up and end it right there. Tune in next week. I'll be right here, same place, same time. Remember, take care of each other and be good to each other. But most important, make sure that you love each other. Take care, Philly.